Well, welcome everyone to the groundbreaking ceremony for the Idaho Falls peaking plant. Um, so we're gonna keep this fairly short and quick, and then we'll get to throwing some dirt. Ooh. so whoa. So the first thing we're gonna have is just a quick review of the agenda. We're gonna have three speakers today. We're gonna start with Mayor Casper. She's going to give the welcome address. Then we're going to have John Revere, the Director of Engagement and Communications for the Idaho National Lab, have to say a few words. Maybe turn that. Hey, Alan, take those speakers and point them that way. They can't come back at me. There you go. Turn that speaker that way. There you go. Then it won't. Then it won't have the feedback. You can. Is it still good? Okay, cool. And then we'll have the wrap up. I'll hit a few kind of points that got us to this position in the project, and then do a little bit of question and answers for those of you that have any. And first, I want to say, thank you everyone for coming out here. Glad it's not raining at least, but certainly welcome to the East Idaho Wind. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Casper to give the opening welcome remarks.
I'm not exactly sure what opening welcome remarks mean, and so I interpret it the way I interpret it, and we'll just see what happens here. But it is so exciting to see this day, to be a part of this day. And we're excited to share, for those of you who aren't part of the Idaho Falls Power family, we're excited to share today with you. I want to give you just a little bit of background as to why it's exciting to the non-Idaho Falls Power professionals, but to the elected officials here today. And at first I'd like to acknowledge that we have a great many elected officials here today. We have we have 4 members of the City Council here. Our City Council President, Lisa Burtonshaw, is on vacation, and she was pretty disappointed when she learned that the dates were not going to coincide for her. But we have Michelle Zeal-Dingman, our former Council President and current Council member. We have, John Radford. Where'd you go, John? There, okay, he's not sitting, he's back there. All right, then we have Councilor Jim Freeman. Councilor Jim Francis is at a medical appointment, and he's hoping to get here as soon as he can. We have Councilor Kirk Larson here with us as well. And so thank you to the council members who are here. We have Commissioner Jonathan Walker and Commissioner Brian Reed here from Bonneville County, and we thank you for being here. This is a big deal no matter what level of government you serve in Idaho. That's because Idaho Falls is, when it comes to power, Idaho Falls is a big deal. And so let me just tell you that some of you might have noticed what I'm going to call the geekification of city council members and mayors once they become elected and they begin serving as Idaho Falls Power and Idaho Falls Fiber board members. As a board, we meet separately from regular city council business, and we do that so we can focus on the power industry and learn more, and so that we can better serve our utility effectively. And once we put those Idaho Falls Fiber, Idaho Falls Power hats on, we start talking about megawatts and energy portfolios and IRPs and take rates and peak energy and CFPP and LCOE, and we start geeking out with all of the acronyms because we have learned. And some might say we only know enough to make us dangerous, but I'll say that we know enough and we know the right people. Therefore, we know enough to make some smart decisions. And this is in large part due because we know the right people. We have a very effective team of Idaho Falls Power employees. And I guess I'd like to just ask everybody who is an Idaho Falls employee to give a little wave. Everybody look around, just about half the crowd here. Please join me in giving them a hand because we would not be where we are without them. And it's not just the work, it's the smart decisions. We owe a lot of that to our fearless leader, Bear Prairie. If he's anything, he's the guy who makes smart decisions. So if you are an Idaho Falls Power customer, all of these impressive experts work for you. And that's a big part of what it means to be public power. Public power is, Idaho Falls Power is very proud to be a public power provider. And the public means that, that all of the utilities, resources, and assets are owned by the citizens of Idaho Falls. That means that the utility does not answer to shareholders who have to be rewarded with profits. There is no one for the board to answer to except those who own the utility, which are our citizens and our customers. The public power model allows us to focus exclusively, and I say almost exclusively, because we have to consider laws, the laws of the land and the laws of physics. But once we see to those laws, we are able to focus exclusively on our customers and what they need. And experience has taught us that customers need two things. They need reliability and they need affordability. And those are two values that we work very hard to try to meet. But we don't just care about reliability and affordability, what we're providing to our customers. We also care about how we provide that. And so the first thing I want to tell you is that we strive to deliver our power safely. And I will say that over the past decade, Idaho Falls Power has devoted incredible resources to training, to having the PPV and other appropriate equipment so that we can make sure that every single person who works at Idaho Falls Power goes home every night after work, straight home, not by way of an emergency care center or anywhere else. We also have worked hard to try to create this culture of safety, and that's important. So we care about how we deliver power safely. We also care about efficiency. And at first I thought efficiency was just sort of a cute little, thing, a little sticker on the new fridge or whatever. And I thought that it was just lip service. But in fact, I have learned that as we assist our customers with obtaining efficient heating and cooling and appliances and weatherproofing, we're not only saving them money, but we're also saving megawatts that we don't have to provide. And I've learned pretty much from Bear that that's like building an entire invisible power plant, one that allows us to stretch the resources that we do have even further than they otherwise would go. And that's important. So that's another how. We want to be efficient. And then lastly, we've come to really care deeply about how the power that we deliver is generated. For us to have a clean environment or environmental footprint is important to the board members. That's because, as we have learned over the course of our education as being newcomers in the power industry, we've learned that the environmental or the carbon footprint matters. Since the utility's humble beginnings about 124 years ago, Idaho Falls Power has featured hydropower, right? And hydro emits zero carbon into the atmosphere. And today we operate 5 hydroelectric generation facilities along the Snake River. Today, on average, over the course of each year, these facilities meet just over 20% of our power needs, again, average over the course of the year. As the city has grown, we've added more and more power. We've had more power that we don't generate to our portfolio, or that we don't generate along the river. First and foremost is the power we purchased from Bonneville Power, the Bonneville Power Administration, which is, the nation's premier hydroelectric system in the Northwest. And BPS's energy comes primarily from hydro and from nuclear. And of course, nuclear is also non-carbon emitting. We get about just over 70% of our resources from our contract with BPA. We also co-own the Horse Butte Wind Farm, which is located about 16 miles east of Idaho Falls. And the renewable energy source that is Horse Butte Wind is not super efficient, but the renewable and carbon-free aspects of that power are very worthwhile. And you'd say Horse Butte Wind meets about maybe 2% on average of our annual needs. So we have also a very, very small array of solar cells that we put to work in the city. And they're so small that the power we generate from them is only about, 0.02%. So far, we just haven't found solar to be a super worthwhile source of power for us. So we don't invest a lot of effort into that right now. But where do the rest of our needs come? If you're doing the math, you're at roughly 72-ish plus percent. And it's actually, average a little higher than that. So our last 5%, no, I didn't say 72, I meant 92. But anyway, let's go up a little higher. Our last 5% comes from buying power up from the open market. And over the course of the year, we find that we must typically do that on what we call our peak days, the very cold days, the very hot days. And when the peak demand for our power exceeds the supply that we have available, chances are it's exceeding the supply that other utilities have available. Everybody's turning the thermostat up or down on those days. And power in the open market is incredibly unpredictable in terms of how it's generated. We can't guarantee that it's coming from a non-carbon source. And I'm pretty sure that most of the time it isn't, because of the way that the nation's portfolio looks like. With any given power purchase, we could be buying carbon-free nuclear generated power, or we could be buying very dirty coal generated power. But on those days, it doesn't matter, because we have a need to meet. And that's, that makes that open market purchase power, sorry, say that 5 times fast, makes it incredibly expensive, because demand is super high. And it's so expensive that building a multi-million-dollar plant here in Idaho Falls that's owned by this utility to meet our peak needs is more affordable than buying that power. And that's why this is the right thing to do. When you do the math, this is the right thing to do. So what's the future? Today's facility, of course, isn't the end of Idaho Falls story. This is the first major facility we've built in many decades. But here it is. The city of Idaho Falls is a desirable place to live. People who value having the highest standards in connectivity and low power rates, combined with just a beautiful river and the milder pace of life in eastern Idaho, or that we offer here in eastern Idaho, they're drawn to Idaho Falls. People do research and they land on Idaho Falls. So we're watching that growth, and we're managing our energy resources carefully. And we're constantly exploring new, and we're adding non-carbon emitting resources, including geothermal, and we're still looking at nuclear. And the interplay between the available power, clean power, and affordable power brings us to where we are today. A natural gas peaking plant is the right technology at the right time for Idaho Falls Power to save money for our ratepayers. But alas, the carbon footprint of natural gas is not zero. This plant will be the first carbon emitting resource the city has owned. And that was not an easy decision for the council members. And this is where the ability to use clean hydrogen in the peaking plant generators became an important criteria that we added as we were considering this. There's more testing and there's more research that needs to be done on that on the technology to get the fuel mix to include mostly hydrogen rather than just natural gas. But we are offering up space for that research to happen here. For 124 years, Idaho Falls Power leaders, paid and elected, have looked to the future and made an effort to invest in the right community infrastructure and the right technology. And the result is some of the lowest energy rates in the country. Our average is less than half the rate of the national average per unit of power. That's something that everybody should feel proud of and excited about. Idaho Falls, we're also grateful to be home to the Idaho National Laboratory. We value the partnerships we've developed over the years, and INL's long-standing history of energy innovation, research and development makes them a perfect partner for Idaho Falls Power in this endeavor. As many of you know, the additional land available on this property, not just where we are, but all around the whole parcel, that's going to become the Idaho Falls Clean Energy Research Park. And I am now really pleased to introduce a good friend of mine, Mr. John Revere. He's INL's Director of Engagement and Communications. And he's going to talk a little bit more about INL, Idaho Falls Power Partnerships, and how we can together work to crack the nut of local power, maybe even locally generated power, that is low carbon or non-carbon emitting. And I'll tell you that the Idaho Falls, the Idaho National Laboratory piece of this only adds luster to the great day that we have right today of building our first, constructing our first non-hydro facility that we own 100%. John, go ahead and come on up. I'll tell you that John is a big muckety-muck at INL. He's in the upper tier leadership team, and it's a real honor to have you here sharing this day with us. So thank you for coming, and
Thank you,
we look
Mayor.
forward to your words.
I really appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mayor, for those kind words. We've had a partnership for many, many years now, and I really appreciate it. Before I start, I should say that I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. I've been involved with Idaho now since 2001 when I started working for Congressman Simpson back in Washington, D.C. But I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, 5,000 people. In many ways, it was a mini Idaho Falls. It didn't have an Idaho National Lab, but it had a hydropower. It was a WAPA customer. My dad was the mayor on and off for 30 years. And so when I worked for a senator from Minnesota in D.C., my sort of bias toward public power got me in trouble occasionally. But I really love this utility in the city because it reminds me in many ways of where I grew up. I should say also that our lab director, John Wagner, sends his regrets for not being able to be here today. But it is wonderful to be here today with great partners and friends. In many ways, this plant represents the continuation of a very long and fruitful partnership between Idaho Falls Power, the City of Idaho Falls, and Idaho National Laboratory. And we're fortunate in that regard because Idaho Falls, well, I should say before I even say that as many of you know, Idaho Falls Power is the sole provider of electricity to INL's in-town facilities. And there is where I meant to say, we're fortunate in that regard because Idaho Falls Power provides the lab with clean, reliable, and affordable electricity day in and day out. But Idaho Falls Power is much more than that for the lab. It's a great collaborator and partner in research, demonstration, and development. Bear and his team are so good to work with. They're forward-thinking. They're also mindful of their mission and responsibility to ratepayers. So it's not surprising that this new peaking plant will not only provide critical electricity for us at INL and this community, it'll serve as a research platform where the lab and the utility can once again work together to solve the grand energy challenges facing this community, our state, and the nation. I want to commend Bear and everyone at Idaho Falls Power for dedicating an extra generating bay for future research and demonstration on things like biofuels and hydrogen, maybe even hydrogen produced by nuclear down the road out at our desert facility. They're also building office and research space where our teams can work together with the private sector, perhaps our institutions of higher learning, on energy projects at the site. Naturally, we think these collaborations are critical to our success and to the success of many partners that might one day call this site home. So it is with gratitude and optimism that I stand here today wishing Idaho Falls Power huge success with this project and congratulations on today's momentous occasion. I'm looking forward to watching the construction progress and being a frequent visitor over the years. Thanks a lot, Bear. Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations, everybody.
Thank you, John and Mayor. Certainly appreciate the kind remarks. I guess real quick background of what got us to where we are today. To this point, I'm going to stay out of the super details of what we're building. We do have FAQs that everybody can grab that has more of the details in the manufacturers, the Caterpillar engines, the megawatts, and all those kind of nitty-gritty stuff. But let's start with this conversation really goes back to 2020. At that time, we were watching the community grow. We're watching our loads grow. And I remember in 2012, 13, 14, we had a surplus of electricity. We're trying to find ways to recruit industry, recruit people here to utilize all these surplus hydro that we saw most of the year, where we're like, man, we have more generation between our Bonneville contract and our hydro than we have a home for. Fast forward to 2020, we're going, how are we going to meet the energy needs of this growing community? And then everybody remembers COVID hits, and we're like, well, maybe that'll slow things off. Oh no, the growth just accelerated from there. We are seeing unprecedented load growth in our community, and then we're also seeing unprecedented demand for electricity in the United States, and certainly in the Pacific Northwest because we have affordable rates. This has come from electrification of vehicles. It's also coming from AI. So data centers, if you think about the AI evolution, there's gigawatts, so thousands and thousands of megawatts of electricity demand that's sitting there trying to connect to the grid, and we don't have the electricity to support it. So we need to figure out how to solve these energy needs for the future. So this is one of many future facilities that's going to be built in the West as we try to tackle these challenges, and I'm excited to continue to work at our national lab on this stuff, especially advanced nuclear. So those conversations started to happen in 2020, really looking at our peak winter and summer needs and the fact that we were relying more and more on other utilities in the wholesale market to meet our needs. And that's not a good place to be when you have to rely on your neighbor to keep your lights on. So we started those conversations. In November of 2021, identified this piece of property. We actually already owned the 5 acres that we're on here. And we have our 161 kV transmission line that was built through here, and this was identified as a future substation site next to our high voltage transmission line with distribution. So as we started talking about what our future energy needs look like and found this wonderful piece of property that was already industrial zoned, it has a railroad spur running through it, which is tremendous. We're also only about a quarter mile from a high pressure natural gas main, and we have access to our high voltage transmission and our distribution system. So it really is a confluence of 4 amazing things that you're looking for, or 5 amazing things that you're looking for when you're looking at potential future development sites. So we ended up, council agreed that now is the time to secure the land, but they still wanted to continue to have those conversations of what type of generation are we going to put on here. There was certainly some concerns with the carbon attributes of natural gas. So we continued to have those conversations and deliberation of what type of technology we're really going to deploy here for that first generating facility. So in August of 2023, after many years of thoughtful deliberation and looking at our loads and our resources, we moved forward with a request for proposals to build the natural gas peaking plant. And it really came down to that reliable affordability and sustainability, and talking about what do we do to further ensure that we can keep the lights on when it's 20 below in Idaho Falls. That really is a life and death situation, and we can't outsource that to other utilities. We move forward, and then with the award of the RFP in November, the winning contractor and designer developer is ESI out of Meridian, and it's a unique contract structure in the fact that it is a design build. So they are partners. ESI is a critical partner in this project coming together. We're working with them every day on the design, looking at the pros and cons, and they really are sharpening the pencil to try and find creative ways to bring this project to fruition, under budget and on time. And I really appreciate that partnership that we have with them on that design build approach. We're currently at 60% design. If you look over here, there's actually some materials for one of the outbuildings, kind of shop space is being built. So we already have materials showing up on site. So we're excited to see things moving forward. Fast forward, I come back here, we're planning in December of next year. So, about a year and a half from now, we'll be doing the ribbon cutting and commissioning of the facility. So that's the part that I always get excited for, is when we get to actually tour the plant. So that's a real quick overview of how we got to where we're at today. So let's get moving on so we can throw some dirt. So first off, though, I want to wrap up with saying thank you to all the people that have been critical in getting to this point, and kind of introduce who's going to be the ceremonial first shovel folks. So first, let's start with city staff and some of the diggers. And I want to give a shout out certainly to some of the non-Idaho Falls Power employees, but still city department employees that have helped bring this to fruition. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call out Kenny. Kenny's the surveyor for the city. If anybody's ever worked with Kenny, he is a get-it-done guy, and it's been amazing. If we need to survey work and we're changing this and that, Kenny's been just fabulous to work with through all the years. Next, Lisa Burtonshaw is not able to be here, but she was one of the ceremony diggers. Jim Francis hopefully will be hey, Jim Francis showed up, so perfect. Jim Freeman, got John Radford, Michelle Zildingman, Kirk Larson. Kirk's the newest person on council, and he is a quick study, so I've been really impressed with how fast you've come up to speed on the electricity industry, and because you had some big shoes to fill by taking Tom Halley's spot. We also got Tom, who's a former city council member and also former power liaison for decades for Idaho Falls Power, and always been a solid steward of Idaho Falls Power and a real visionary to make sure that we're staying on course. I appreciate Tom's leadership at Idaho Falls Power for decades. So thank you, Tom. And got to give a shout out to Judy, his wonderful wife. So for county commissioners, Appreciate having the county here. This is not annexed into the city, so we are building in the county. So we're doing a lot of work with the county on bringing this project to fruition. Appreciate our collaboration and relationship that Idaho Falls Power has with the county. I want to call out a few folks on your staff. So the County Public Works Director, Lance Bates, Assistant Public Works Director, David Romrell, and Zoning Administrator, Austin Black. Especially Austin. They've been awesome to work with as we've been working through this project. Amazing work at the county, finding ways to save time, save some efficiency, not let bureaucratic, tape get in the way. So appreciate all the work that your staff is doing by working collaboratively with our staff. And then we got Commissioner John Walker here. It's going to be one of the ceremonial diggers. Commissioner Roger Christensen was not able to join us today, and we got Commissioner Brian Reed here. So thank you for coming. ESI, we got David Bauer here representing ESI as a contractor, is going to be digging. I appreciate the collaborative work that we've had with ESI. I was pushing back on David a little bit when we were initially doing contracts, and I'm like, what is your guys' incentive as we do this design build to truly hone in and bring this project to fruition on time and on budget? Because I want to make sure this isn't a blank check. David assured me, he goes, this is not a blank check. You have off-ramps in the contract. We are going to keep this thing on budget, on scope, on time. We're going to work hard to engineer this thing to come in under budget, because this is hopefully just the start of a long relationship for future projects. And ESI, prides themselves for the long game, not just make much of money and move on to the next project. And what I've seen so far from your team, it has been collaborative and really caring about the money. So thank you for your team's work and the subcontractors. I'm also excited, most of the subcontractors working on this, they had a real focus on using local labor and local subcontractors to do this work. So one of the things that's important to us is to keep our dollars here in the community, in the region, so we can create our own economy. Last and certainly not least is Idaho Falls Power staff. I know I get a lot of praise, but it really isn't me. It's the amazing team that I have behind me. They are so talented, hardworking every day, and I'm just privileged to be able to work with them. First and foremost, we've got Alan Cunningham is going to be one of the diggers. Alan is the project lead on this. Man, talk about a details guy that can just get things done, follow through. It's just amazing working with Alan, and he's our main point of contact with the ESI team. Got Stephen Borman, the assistant general manager. Josh Roos, my CFO, has been instrumental in helping on all this. Richard Malloy, Jason Cooper, our generation superintendent. Jared Lurwell's done a bunch of work on this, on the electrical design. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't call out Linda Lundquist and Nikki for helping put all this on and doing all these details. So thank you for doing all this. I take zero credit for any of this. They do awesome. And then the rest of the Idaho Falls Power team. So if you're the Idaho Falls Power team, raise your hand. Call you out. So thank you guys. So with that, I blathered enough. So let's get on, unless there's some questions. No? Good. So let's get on with, let's get everybody who's going to be a ceremonial digger, and we'll get up here and we'll throw some dirt.